A year ago at Sibos Vienna, we heard about Lehman Brothers. It completely and utterly demoralized us. For the past 12 months, we've been under constant attack from the media, from politicians, from regulators. The one constant is we've always held up for each other. We didn't turn on each other. If I had to say there's one constant on this Sibos, it's the word collaboration. We're going to talk about collaboration. We're also going to talk about a few other items, one of them being innovation.
Payments is a long-term business. You have to invest and innovate. If you don't innovate, you might as well stop doing business.
Another big issue, and not surprisingly considering where we are, globalization, specifically Asian banks. Chinese banks have amassed a massive amount of liquidity. The question is, when are they going to use it and how are they going to use it?
We shouldn't fool ourselves that Asia is in any well-developed financial markets. We don't have capital markets. It's still a very bank-intermediated system. I think that actually creates risks in and of itself. So there is a need, believe it or not, for financial innovation in China.
在走出去推进全球化方面，确实还是采取了一些措施，也收到了一些效果。那么亚洲肯定是我们走出去的一个战略重点区域。
To be dominant in one market and then try and become dominant in another is not perhaps as easy as it sounds. And when they come into our space, we will treat them with the respect that they and other new competitors will deserve.
We spent a lot of time looking back at the circumstances of the past 12 months. We've also spent a lot of time looking forward to the future of financial services and how that future is going to affect all of us.
Well, the future is always uncertain, but what I can say for sure is that the future of the financial services industry will be carved out by the stakeholders and the customers and not from the bank's point of view. If the banks keep on operating and if the regulators keep on driving what they are driving now, the bank's operations will become so inefficient that they will be driven out by the low-cost operators that are out there waiting for their chance.
And finally, we heard a lot of you talk about our responsibility as an integral part of our society.
I think there needs to be a humble acceptance by the financial services industry of its responsibilities to society as a whole. We've never had a more critical example of that than we had in the last 18 months.
As we head home, we carry a heavy responsibility to our customers, to society, and specifically to each other. I think the first thing is that when anybody in the audience goes up to their management or to the board to try to get a project funded, if you use the word innovation, the chances are you're not going to get any money. It just seems to be a really bad word. So I'd like to ask Stephan first to ask him how we progress this conversation, because quite frankly, innovation just isn't happening.
We are talking today about innovation, not only in products, but also in processes, the way operations work, and also how these, I would say, advanced business models really behave. And I think that's a different quality of the word innovation, and therefore has, I think, taken the dialogue along.
I think one of the areas that probably polarizes us the most here is, when are we going to recover?
The pessimism we saw here on stage is in contrast with that government or official story that we see green shoots, we see signs of recovery. But if you were in many of the sessions, the tone is fairly pessimistic. The W, the V with an L, whatever happens, maybe we have a second dip in the crisis, but one thing that we know for sure is going to take an awful long time to come back.
A lot of banks, a lot of organizations are thinking maybe it's not appropriate to make any investment or to move the business forward until the politicians and the regulators kind of settle on a message.
The fear of the regulator, that it looks like the industry is just standing by, not really engaging. And we heard a loud cry that engage with regulators. Some of this maybe is because not everybody is large and powerful and global or multi-regional. Some of the institutions have more of a domestic or regional focus, and that is maybe not they don't see that they don't feel in a position to engage with regulators. But the clear message was, engage. They need you as much as you need them.
I think in terms of the regulatory pressure and also what we banks expect, it became quite clear that of course it would be helpful if we had, to face the globality of our business, also kind of global regulation. But I think we've all been around for a while and know that these types of regulations will take a lot of time because it's individual jurisdictions, it's individual sets of dependencies, and it's a political process that goes along with it. And these things take time.
How is China going to develop is a question that we had.
We've seen a shift in the intentions of Chinese institutions, mainland China institutions, where maybe 18 months ago they were in a somewhat defensive position, waiting for the foreign players to come in and getting ready for that competition at home. And now, after the crisis, we've seen that it's the opposite. They are in the offensive. They're looking for ways in which they can be the ones bringing war to other people's domestic environments, especially in Asia. Although they already had investments in many other areas, obviously, but now there seems to be an Asian agenda for Chinese institutions.
I think there's been sort of a trend that's been going on before Sibos, and I think it may have been reinforced here, and I'd like to understand that, is that banks have been depending on each other. Order flow has been going to even competitors at times, and we sort of been supporting each other and very much working collaboratively.
Despite global transaction banks, for instance, competing in the same space, they are also at the very same time clients or customers of one another, and that actually sharing infrastructure bits and pieces, particularly there where it's complementary, that this is a very effective way of keeping, kind of the synergies high, which means nothing else than your prices are going down, because this was also quite clearly mentioned. We do not expect in the transactional business that we can ask for more fees than today, rather the opposite.
And there was a lot of not only question and collaboration, so now the competition is shared services, back to Yaoer's call of the last 2 years. I think that is now clearly in the agenda. And this time, we actually all mean the same thing.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.